Hey there, friends, and welcome back to Second Cup. I am your host, Tim Heller. My guest for today's episode is Melissa Grogan. Melissa is a vocal empowerment expert / dialect, movement, and acting coach based in Austin, Texas. In our conversation together, we talk about voice work, navigating COVID, reinventing yourself, and so much more. If you've been enjoying Second Cup, I'd like to invite you to show support for us in any of the following ways. First is by sharing episode links on social media and tagging @TimHellerCreative. Second is by rating, leaving reviews, and subscribing in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're consuming podcasts. Third is subscribing, liking, and commenting on our YouTube channel, Tim Heller Creative. Second Cup playlist has all of the episodes. And finally, if you want to support financially, you can Venmo @TimHellerCreative or reach out via email to me at tim@timhellercreative.com to discuss sponsoring one or several episodes. Any and all of these actions mean a ton and really help boost the show's visibility. And any of the financial support goes directly back into the show by sending some small gifts to my guests and hiring more people to help me manage the boatload of content I have so I can properly promote them all. Now, top off your beverage, get comfy, and enjoy this episode of Second Cup with Melissa Grogan.
All right. Back again for the first time, for the last time. No, it's so good to see you, Melissa.
Oh, it's good to see you.
Thank
I
you
love
so
watching
much
all of your successes and stories and things.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been one hell of a windy road, but that's how it goes as an artist, as you know. So, but
Yeah.
I'm just happy to be doing what I'm doing. How are you? And thank you for watching everything and interacting with everything. It's been such a trip to see your name pop up in my notifications, and it's just I really
Awesome.
appreciate the engagement and support. But how are
Awesome.
you?
I'm very well. I'm still in Austin. I'm in graduate school. I'm working. I've got a dog. Life is good.
Amazing. That's fantastic. What are you in graduate school for?
Yeah, this is take two, graduate school take two. I'm in graduate school for Mindfulness Based Transpersonal Counseling.
Oh my gosh.
That's a mouthful.
That sounds
to become a
fucking
licensed
sweet.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Well, okay, so along those lines, I'd love for you to, I'd love to get a quick intro from you for those who don't know you. We know each other from Texas State when I was a student. You were my teacher and teaching voice and speech there. But I'd love to hear a quick bio for to just familiarize the listeners with you.
Okay, sure. Tell me, feel free to interject. It can be dialogue-y or monologue-y as you wish.
Yeah.
So as you just said, I was a professor at Texas State for a long time, actually, and then I resigned, not because of anything other than just wanting to expand the way that I work with what it is that I do with voice and speech, and I was really wanting to delve into the therapeutic aspects of the work. So I have a BFA and an MFA in acting, and obviously lots of training with working with actors. For my own journey of voice and speech for myself, it was always it was a therapeutic journey, really, of unfolding into who I really am and working through, quite honestly, some traumas from the past, which, and as I got curious and as my students got curious, luckily, I had very honest students. I always encouraged them to be very honest with me. I would, if a student had a question I didn't know how to answer, I would say, well, I'm not sure. I could give them an answer that was, satiated them, but it didn't satiate me. So I thought, well, I better go learn about that. So I started accruing all of these certifications and it really pointed me into, I want to know more about how this can help the larger population. Because in the theater world, we understand that voice is a way of healing, of unfolding, of getting to know yourself better, getting to embody a character, obviously, is what we're working with there. But in the
Connection
grander
with others
world,
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And in the grander world, though, that isn't so well known. So I took a bold move and I resigned. I handed back my tenure and it was hard to do.
Yeah. How scary was that? What was that process of making that decision like? And what was the feeling immediately after?
Oh my gosh. Well, Well, I cried in child's position on the middle of my floor for, I'm not exaggerating, 45 minutes or more every morning. I mean, it was not an easy decision. It was a lot of fear. But then I got, it was hard to tell the students, hard to tell my faculty whom I loved. But then I got these real clear signs that was the direction to go. AMC called me up and wanted me to dialect coach a show, which I would not have been able to do if I was a professor.
Wow. What show did you do with AMC?
The Sun with Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was a nice little way of like.
That's wild.
I know. Like, this is the right direction to go. Yeah. And so I did that. I still had my business. I'll make this very long story shorter, which is that more and more clients were coming to me wanting therapy. And I had to be very clear with them, this isn't therapy. And that's what they wanted. And
wanting like traditional, like talk-based CBT kind of therapy?
No, they wanted what I was doing, but they wanted it to be therapy. And this is where it gets, I know it can get a little confusing because of what you just said, traditional, CBT, talk therapy, that sort of thing. Like, this is how we tend to think of therapy, but the truth is that there's all these other ways to do therapy, and what it is that I do really was, when I say bumping up against it, I mean holding hands with it. The only difference was that I didn't have an LPC, and I did not think I was going to go back to graduate school, but the pandemic showed me that I can, and that I could. And so, that and my clients really showing me that direction, and really life saying this is the right direction. So I chose Naropa University. I'm in a hybrid program, and I chose it very specifically because it so fits into the direction I've already been in. And as I'm studying, I'm seeing, I get this. I've been doing this all along as myself, and then working with other people. We've been in the university. It was really looking at characters. In my private practice, therapists would refer people to me, for vocal empowerment. Maybe it's autism, maybe it's domestic abuse. I'm a wounded warrior provider.
Wow.
Yeah. So there were these different ways. And now I am just so excited of what the trajectory that I'm going into. So to answer your question, it was really hard to leave that security,
Yeah.
And
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. I also knew I would regret it the rest of my life if I didn't. So.
Yeah. That's something so interesting about that pivot and that shift in reinventing yourself, following your heart, and a lot of what I want to dig into together is it's that feeling of like, oh my God, I'm going to throw up, but I know I need to do something, but it's too scary, or like X, Y, and Z, and it can be a small decision like outsourcing something, like releasing control over a small aspect of your business, or it can be as giant as an entire pivot of starting a new business or leaving that security. But it's how did the pandemic affect that decision to go back to school, and how did you navigate that? And this is something that's come up with a lot of artists and people who may not consider them artists who have been on the show, just navigating the pandemic. And I love hearing how everybody has done that and what they found in that dark time. Yeah.
Well, I had COVID right out of the gates, March 2020. March 16th, 17th, I was diagnosed with COVID, and I was teaching voice in groups. And so that's one of the number one ways to spread it. So my business went just gone, overnight, suddenly, really almost no income. I was grateful for, I was really grateful is not a big enough word for all that was being done to help us, right, to supplement income.
Yeah.
And I had this health issue, which was really very scary back then. If you remember back then, I didn't.
Yeah. I mean, I know what it was like in New York, and it was terrifying. How was it going through at the very beginning of everything here in Austin?
Well, you know what? I have friends in New York that had it too. And so I want to say, when you say being in New York, my heart goes out to you. It was very scary there. And it was very scary here watching it happen there. Here, at the time, I did not have a dog. I have a dog now, which is because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. We got our dog when we moved back to Texas in the middle of COVID too. So it's a beautiful thing.
Right. But I was completely alone for 29 days. I couldn't have anybody come in. I mean, I guess I could have, but I wasn't going to do that, because we didn't know anything about it. So it was really scary. I mean, there were a few nights where I wasn't sure I was going to wake up.
Oh my gosh. That's terrifying.
Yeah. And you couldn't go back then. There weren't tests. You couldn't go to the hospital. Do you know? I mean, unless you were going to die. And I knew that I had a feeling they would send me back, that I would somehow find the strength to drive all the way down there. And then they would say, well, head back. So
yeah. How did you come to terms with it? Just to go off on a short tangent.
Please.
I mean, I feel like on that TV show, The Morning Show on Apple TV Plus with Steve Carell and Jennifer Aniston, they illustrate her getting COVID and having to isolate early on and not knowing what it is and feeling like she was going to die. But how was that for you, and what was that mental, emotional journey of navigating A, being completely isolated, and B, all of the unknown, and C, like confronting potential death?
Well, I'll tell you, this isn't a tangent at all. This is directly in line with the first question that you asked. So Thank you for asking that. Well intuited, yeah. Well, at first, honestly, being alone was kind of nice because I'm a bit of an introvert, and I was, my generation makes a joke that we were born for this. I was a latchkey kid, I spent time by myself. I kind of was made for this, yeah. Find something to eat on almost nothing and be alone for days. Sure. No problem. Right.
Bring it.
I quite honestly didn't really start to miss people until September, to be honest.
Jess was similar. She was like, there was parts of it where she was just like, this is really awful, and I miss our family and our close friends. But we were fortunate enough to quarantine with our two best friends because we lived on the same block, and so we had our little bubble where we only saw them. And when everything started opening up, she was like, "Is it bad that I kind of wish we could just stay, like aspects of this?"
There was a lot of beauty that came out of that time. Honestly, a lot of grace was to be had, and we all slowed down. And to your question, because I am tracking your question, what I chose to do, I have a deep practice, a deep spiritual practice, which is mindfulness based meditation. And I decided to melt into it, to surrender into it, what I realized was everything was trying to die. My business was trying to die. I thought maybe my body was trying to die. The way that I knew about the world, being in contact with relationships. And so it was an absolute free fall backwards of faith, of life, and that this is nature and part of it. And I decided, let it die. And that meant even potentially me, really yielding into that. And I spent those 29 days really talking with one or two other friends on the phone who also had COVID at the same time. I didn't tell anybody else because you couldn't tell anybody. They'd ask you all kinds of questions. It was a scarlet letter.
Yeah,
it was the scarlet letter. It was like,
yeah.
Yeah. But I meditated a lot, and I listened to mystics speak a lot, which is not unlike me. That's pretty usual for me. And in that time, I came to realize some things. I was done being alone, meaning I didn't want to live alone anymore, and I didn't want to work alone anymore. My work can be very isolated. Not a lot of people do what I do. So it's very common for someone with the work like I do to be the only person that does that. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to work with a team of people that have different skills, but are all focused on helping people come back, regain a state of balance. And I knew I wanted a dog. And I had some plans. One of the plans, which was not about pity, but was, I had a sense I would make it through. When and if I healed and recovered, that I would pack up everything, disinfect my entire home, obviously, pack up everything, put it in storage. And luckily, my landlord, who lived at the time right next door to me, is completely fine if I wanted to Airbnb my place. He's made that very clear from the time I signed my lease.
Wow.
Totally
That's
fine.
lucky, especially in Austin.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, you know what? I will rent my place out and I'm going to go join a monastery. And I'm just going to go be within.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so where was this monastery? And I mean, talk about surrender. That's the word that stuck out to me is it's a common theme that I see, and whether it's for me, it's God, or for who, like if it's a universe or any who or whatever it is for whatever you believe in, it's those little checkpoints along the way of like, you need to surrender. And also Jess is like kind of my tuning fork of like saying, hey, you need to let this go, practice what you preach, and like sit in the crunchy granola part of your life right now. And, but I mean, talk about complete surrender. Tell me, I'd love to hear more about the monastery, how you found it, how you decided where you wanted to go. What was that experience like?
Oh, I didn't go.
Oh, well, amazing. Short answer.
But I did. But no, it's even better than that, though, Tim. It's still a great question. I didn't go. I got the dog instead.
Hey, there you go.
And to me, God and universe are synonymous, so I get it. It's the same.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know where I wanted to go, but I kept feeling like it might be somewhere in Colorado. And that's where Naropa is in Colorado. And Naropa was at one time, is not any longer, but was at one time connected to a monastery there, or to a center there. And it is Buddhist in nature, the Naropa University, it's just known to be a Buddhist university.
Yeah.
So, I did kind of, in essence, I didn't go to a monastery, but I sat in a monastery. I created the monastery here. Even whenever, 29 days, I didn't really go hang out with people. I still was pretty, I suppose the word is isolated, for better and for worse. There's some good from that. And then there's some things about that I am still unwinding and working out.
Yeah.
I think
Do you mind sharing some of those, like what, because I know I have some still that I'm like trying to work through from so going through it in New York City, being isolated like that, and then things opening up again in New York, and then moving back to Austin and going through right when we moved, my back surgery, my back went out again and I had to have a big back surgery. And then,
I remember
moving from that apartment into a house and all of that. And so and then my work as well is fairly isolating. And so finding that balance of finding that team and the community with that. And I still have some bad habits that I'll call them bad habits for lack of a better word. I don't like, it's just, new socialization techniques. I don't know, whatever bullshit I want to come up with, but what are some of those lingering things that you feel like you are trying to like still push past or navigate through?
Yeah, well, what you say is valid, because really, it's only if it's causing us suffering, whether or not it's really a problem, us or our loved ones suffering. Then if it's not, then is it really a problem? For me, I will say, I have a tendency towards isolationism. So remember, I'm in school. I'm halfway through right now of being a therapist, right? And in order to go to school for that, essentially what you're doing is going into deep therapy for yourself, really, so that you can learn then how to work with others. So I'm very clear on what those tendencies are. And I listen to myself, right? The physical body, what it's telling me in terms of, Melissa, do you really need to be doing homework right now? Or are you avoiding something? And is this helping you, or is this continuing something that
like
you
almost
want
enabling
to
something?
Yeah, a good way to put it. Yeah, for sure. So now I have my own business. I'm working, putting myself through school, taking out all the loans, all the things, and I'm going full time to graduate school, and teaching at UT and all kinds of things. So I know there's this tendency in me, and I do wonder, like, am I creating excuses to not be around people? And would it benefit me to be around people? I know that I don't want to be alone for the rest of my life. I know that I value relationships, and I know that I feel a sense of loneliness whenever I go to, I want to do something and nobody's available. And part of that is because I haven't been available to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting kind of navigating, especially I won't say post-COVID, because we're hardly post-COVID, but now post-lockdown period is really taking stock of that social currency that we all hold and who we want to spend it on and how. And it's, it changes week to week, I feel like, especially you're building your business and doing all of these things. So when you do go see people or you do make time for others, you really want that to be time well spent and currency well invested in those interactions.
For both of us, right? For both of us. And this is, I think that this is one of the things that we really needed, that COVID was a big wake up call. Slow down. Why are you doing the things you're doing? Was like what we all had to ask. What I am repeatedly having to ask myself, is this the way forward for you? Is this are these the seeds you want to plant now?
Yeah.
For the garden in the future. And
higher sense of intention almost, do you feel like not, I guess, higher stakes intention, where it's like, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but it's just whatever you are doing where it may have been a little bit more passive before, like, yeah, sure, I'll go to that, is more now like, this has to be serving me in some way or serving others.
And another way of saying that is a clarity around really what it is that we're doing, because that was always so. It's just that we weren't so aware of it before. And I'll speak for myself, but I think it was all of us. I mean, I quite love seeing the Great Resignation. Yes.
Yeah.
Why are you in that job?
Quiet quitting is such a bullshit name for it, but it's like, it's just like, oh no, we just are finally having healthy boundaries and seeing like, if we're making money for other people, then like we're going to do what our job says until we're
finally going to make
finding value.
I get something out of life, that I'm not, in resentment all the time. Quite honestly, I feel our American culture by construct is designed for codependency in every way.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think it gets passed down.
Yeah. I heard somebody say, and this was definitely on TikTok or something, but it was somebody saying like, college isn't building, it isn't building entrepreneurs and business owners, it's building consumers. And I thought that was a really interesting thing. And I don't like fully buy into it. I think there's like, I loved my college experience, and I think that it is the person that makes it, and everybody has that voice in them that can, and the ability to create their own stuff and do that. But it's an interesting idea to think about and ponder and like reflect upon.
Well, you just nailed it right there. It has to do our experiences. It's the same thing we're talking about, right? Our experiences are, we get to craft them, but only if we have conscious awareness that we get to craft them. And you chose a field and a program, I know because I was in it, but a field that really asks that of you, really demands that of you, where maybe some others don't so much.
Yeah. And that's the reason why I chose Texas State. And I was asked,
I think in another conversation on the show here about like why I decided to go to Texas State, or why versus where the other school I got into, or maybe it was a post conversation, but it was one of those things that was like, yeah, I mean, this is why I went, is because I felt like they cultivated the whole person, the whole artist. And it wasn't just like, this is our system, you're going to go through it, you're going to do X, Y, and Z when you graduate. If you don't, then man, but as soon as you do find success, then we'll support you again. Where it was like Texas State was kind of like, all right, let's like cultivate your weird, let's let it fly, and
yeah,
this is how you kind of
that makes me very
navigate.
happy to hear you say that, because that was so important to me. You know, I can't speak for all of the faculty because it's been so many years, but I feel like I'm speaking for all of them. It was so important that first off, really at the base level, that graduates would be able to get work.
Mm-hmm.
That
create
was
work.
Create work.
And creating their work was the thing that I really held on to from there.
Yeah.
So speaking of creating work, I would love to hear about your business. I can't, also, I'm looking at our time. I'm like, oh my God, how has it already been 26 minutes? But we can go over, because I want to hear more about your business here in Austin.
Oh yeah. Well, I kind of paused because it's potentially maybe gonna be moving from Austin. Maybe it's gonna stay. I'm really in a place of transition right now.
Exciting. Okay.
Yeah, it is exciting. Absolutely. It's always been not just in Austin. I go and I work in New York sometimes in California, sometimes in Peru. I travel all over to do the work that was happening a lot more pre-pandemic. So my business is in a state of transition, right? I do still dialect coach for TV shows and films. I just wrapped season 3 of The Chosen.
Congratulations.
Several weeks ago, right? And thank you. And I also am working at UT, and just as I don't mean to minimize it. I mean only one class because that's all I have time for, right? And then also I work with clients individually for all different reasons. Maybe they are on the spectrum of autism, so I'm helping them be able to modulate their voice so that it sounds more in a stream where people whose brains operate a little bit more like yours and mine maybe can follow it easier, social constructs, those kinds of things. I also do body work, movement work, movement coaching. So maybe if they have some kind of trauma, or even they may not know that it's a trauma, but it's just something that isn't working for them anymore, an inability to connect with another being, I help them with that. So I love that I have clients from all different walks of life, from all different, with all different presenting issues of why they might come to me. I have actors that come to me to work on text. They love it. I love it, right? So it really lights me up. And I'm transitioning because next semester I'll start with my residency, and I'm applying right now to different places. And that's why I say I don't know where I'm going to be, because we'll see who scoops me up, right? Is it going to be Austin? Will it be Dallas? Will it be Houston? I still don't know. But what I'm really loving with that is there are a couple of places I've found that are integrative. Ultimately, I'd love to work in a clinic where they combine acupuncture, yoga, counseling, nutrition, all of these elements to really work with the whole person, as you were talking about before at Texas State. Yeah. Because there isn't just one way of receiving help, and there shouldn't just be one way of receiving help. Yeah. So it's an exciting direction. I feel like it's such a broad answer. I don't know if that was helpful or clarifying.
It is exactly what it needed to be, which was whatever is going on. It's really exciting to hear, and it's just like you said, it's a transition. It's a giant transition period, and transition is scary and uncomfortable, but it's also just like, it just kind of, for me at least, it like lights me up a little bit and scares the shit out of me.
So I have a question for you. How about that?
Oh, yeah. All right. I'll take a question.
So for you, as a person, you do know me. We don't have to exclude that. But hearing what I just said and knowing the trajectory I want to go into, right? The direction I'm wanting to go, that this work, that I let it fully be embraced into therapy, where I see big things with that, Tim, like CBT not necessarily being the go-to. In 10 years, I promise you that's not going to be the go-to anymore.
Yeah.
I promise you it won't. How would you suggest I navigate this trend? What ideas do you have about what I've said that helps me navigate? Yeah.
I am hardly qualified to be giving advice like this, but at least like from my own experience of, especially with my back issues, like all the way through college, through New York to today, like being able to run 2.5 miles without stopping. I would say that the biggest things are to surrender, like we've already covered. And for those listening, it doesn't mean like just kick back and be like, all right, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But it's really trying to listen to that inner wisdom, listen to your gut, listen to whatever that higher power is in whatever direction you're going, and just follow it. And I think that it's taking the time to be present with other people and with yourself. And for me, that surrender also means not trying to control whatever opportunities may come up or may not come up, and to not try to like hold on too tight to things. And so I would say just, it's somebody told me on the day of our wedding that it's going to move really fast. And this is it's an exciting day. It's a long day, and it's going to move incredibly fast. So just focus on Jess, and just make eye contact with her as much as you can. And so whatever that means to you in this process is just like focus. I guess it would be like focus on yourself and really like take a second whenever you think of it to just like find yourself, look at yourself in the mirror or just wherever you find yourself, and take a breath, make eye contact, and just kind of behold, I guess, just because it's an exciting journey. There's a lot going on, but you can handle it. And like you're on the right path. And to just know that even when it really sucks. But I don't know. It's kind of convoluted. You totally threw me a curveball.
Oh, sorry about that.
No. It's great. It's great for me to feel, don't apologize. It's great for me to feel uncomfortable, but I think it's one of the things I'm working through right now is like translating, figuring out concise ways to translate what I've gone through into whatever may help other people. Right. So that's that.
No, you're the perfect person. You started that with, I'm hardly qualified. You are perfectly qualified. That really, I felt that like it connected. And what I heard in summation is, Melissa, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to, I mean, you've gotten to this point already by following your gut, and to just, I don't know, it's for everybody, it's different. And even if things don't work out, I'm a firm believer in silver linings, and that things happen exactly how they should, when they should. And even when it's not supposed to, like it would have been so easy for me several times in the past, almost 11 years since graduating college, to have, just kind of, or since I guess starting school, it's to have just been like, like, fuck this. Why me? This is stupid. And like, I'm just going to give up. And to just let all of these negative things have completely wrecked me and taken me in a different direction. But I think because I'm painfully optimistic and Midwestern, it's, and I have an amazing support system. It's kind of gotten me into this place of just like, let's roll with the punches and make the best of what we've got.
Tim, for sure. You've been through it, and you are definitely a beam of light in the world for that. I see that.
Thanks.
And I want to say also, I'm not really sure I believe that things don't work out ever. I think they always do.
I think it feels like things whatever you expected or wanted to not work out, though that may not work out, but ultimately it pushes you to where you're supposed to be. And I think that's a valuable lesson to learn as an artist. And I feel I'm grateful for all of the rejection that we get, because it teaches you to have that thick skin and to like roll with the punches a lot more, and to not let it wreck you. And having worked in
retail environments and restaurants and talking with other people not in the creative industry or like the entertainment industry on the performance side, you see people just get so like, it just wrecks them if they don't get a promotion that they've like, if they have worked at a company for a while and not put themselves out there, then the first time they put themselves out there, they don't get what they want. And it's this negative reinforcement, and where I feel like we've had that. We've known that that's part of the game, right?
That's
it's like you are not going to, you got to go into that audition and think like, this is not I'm not going to get this, but like, this is my job.
Right. It's what did I learn? Right. That's the whole thing. And that's why theater training is so good for life.
Yep. Theater training. And I think working in the service industry too. I think everybody's got to go do that.
I want to say one more thing, if I may, which is, I think really this is what COVID, with the pandemic, the lockdown, all really showed us globally all at one time, boom, which is we thought one thing was going on. We thought that there are certain things in life that are permanent, and that is a complete fallacy. And it showed us, oh, you think that job you have could never go away? Guess what? It can. You think that relationship you have can never go away? Guess what? It can. You think your health? It can. Nothing that we can see is real in that it does not have permanence. Mm-hmm. And we all were able to experience that. Some of us, as you have so well articulated, the more that you cling to that, the more suffering there is, right? But if you can flow with it, if you can surrender, if you can flow into it, then life has beauty. And that beauty is not always going to be rainbows and bunnies. And if somebody tells you it is, they're trying to sell you something.
Yep. Yeah. Johnny Brantley in our conversation on this said,
I heard
love is abundance and love is all around us. Therefore we are abundance. And that was just, screw him for being so insightful.
Johnny Brantley the third. I love him so much. I listened. I love it. That man, I love him.
Yeah. Yeah. He is a very special human being.
He sure is.
Melissa, thank you so much for doing this. This is such a blast to hear. And I'm so excited for you with what you have coming. And it's just, I know you do this, but surrender, ride it out, and just enjoy the wave, enjoy the ride. And before I cut you loose, I've got a couple quick fire questions for you.
Oh, okay.
So just real quick, top of mind answers. What is a nickname you had as a child?
Messy Melissa.
Messy Melissa. Who inspires you right now?
You.
Oh, thank you. What is a piece of content that you're consuming? Can be a book, can be podcast, TV show, movies.
So much. Fritz Perls, Gestalt, mindfulness, compassion work. So much. Resma Menachem's My Grandmother's Hands. I'm reading so much. I'm in school.
Yeah, great. It works. You got a lot that you consume.
Yeah.
Last question is: you can only have pizza one last time. What's on it, and where's it from?
I'm just deeply sad. I can only have it one last time. Well, if my stomach doesn't hurt, then it's probably from Chicago. They have the best pizza.
Yes.
Slightly thick crust. I know you're a fan. Lots and lots of cheese, which I can't really have.
This question gets rid of any kind of allergies. This is zero consequences, just the pure bliss of consumption.
It's got like sausage and black olives and onions and mushrooms and a ton of cheese and sauce. Thick crust.
Hell yeah. Sounds like my dad's order. That's amazing. Melissa Grogan, thank you so much. The last question is, where can people find you on the internet and social media right now?
Oh, thanks. Yes. So my website is www.austinvocalempowerment.com, all one word, austinvocalempowerment.com. That's where they can learn more. And if they want to have an initial consultation with me, they certainly can. I am on Insta, soma.sound.therapy. And then my personal one is Melissa Grogan on Insta. And then I'm also on TikTok.
Yeah.
AVE Soma Sound, AVE Soma Sound. And I do basically mindfulness, very quick little mindfulness encouragement videos on that.
I love it. Way to go for being on TikTok. 10 gold stars.
I know.
I love it. I will post all of those in the description of this episode so folks can find in just one click and connect with you. Thank you again for doing this. It's so great to reconnect, and best of luck with everything that you have coming up. It's a very exciting transitional period you have.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Second Cup featuring Melissa Grogan. To keep up to date with what Melissa has going on, you can follow her on Instagram at MelissaGrogan_on_Insta and at somatic.sound.therapy, and on TikTok at AVE Somatic Sound. You can also check out her website, www.austinvocalempowerment.com. Everything linked below for your clicking pleasure. Second Cup is recorded and produced by Tim Heller Creative, LLC. If you enjoyed this episode or any of the previous ones, I invite you to show support for us in any of the following ways. First is by sharing episode links on social media and tagging at Tim Heller Creative. Second is by rating and leaving reviews in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you consume podcasts. Third is subscribing, liking, and commenting on our YouTube channel, Tim Heller Creative. And finally, if you want to support financially, you can Venmo me at Tim Heller Creative or reach out through email to tim@timhellercreative.com to discuss sponsoring one or several episodes. All funds will be used to improve the show and provide the best experience for guests and listeners alike. Tune in next time for another incredible conversation and hopefully to learn something new from a really cool person. Goodbye.